Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. I am Kaylee Batesman, the Content Director at She Can Code, and today we are discussing artificial intelligence and whether or not it is biased. Now, over recent years, we've seen more and more automation creeping into our lives. AI, robotics, and other forms of smart automation have the potential to boost the global GDP by 15 trillion by 2030. A recent report from PwC found that women workers could be more affected by automation over the next decade, but male jobs could be more at risk in the longer term. The report also found that by the mid-2030s, 44% of workers with low education were at risk of automation. So how will AI affect our working lives, and is it for the best? Now, thankfully, we've got Yoleidy Carvajal, Head of Strategic Marketing at Artificial Solutions, to dive into this with us today. Welcome, Yoleidy.
Thank you so much for having me, Kaylee. I'm super excited to be here today chatting with you. And as you say, yeah, my name is Yoleidy Carvajal, and I've been working in conversational AI for almost 15 years with artificial solutions. And yeah, during this time, I have the opportunity to meet and learn from so many great women, but at the same time, recognize that we could be many more in this industry. So nowadays, I love to be involved in any initiative that can support increasing diversity or closing the gap in the industry, and of course, inspiring younger generations to follow our steps.
Can I ask you a little bit about your background and how you came into tech and also into this area? Obviously, it's quite niche. So what is your background there?
So I'm originally from Venezuela, but I've been living in Spain for over 15 years. And I think I had a good influence from my family. There is a lot. I have 3 sisters and 1 brother. My dad was into math, and he was an economist. My mom is really into, letters, and he's a lawyer. So I got a good mix between them. So I never was really limited, I think, by my family on, this is what you should be achieving. I had great role figures, which I think it's essential for women to have, and that's something that I am very adamant to continue with my kids as well. But as soon as I actually had a a weird experience at school, they would give me a psychological test to see what would be the best fit for a career. And the psychologist said, well, you actually can go into any fields because it's sort of balanced, and that didn't help. So I went first for I need to study something because I'm not sure myself what I want to do. I think it's a very hard decision to take when you're 16, 18 years old. So I'm just gonna go into something that I know I can work afterwards. So I went into business management, and I took a minor in IT because I said, business always going to be there, IT always going to be there, technologies, it's going to be in our lives. So that's going to at least give me a job. And I continued to specialize, and then went into marketing, digital marketing. And I was lucky enough to land on a technology company and then learn the whole conversational AI industry. And I just fell in love with it. So that's more or less my background. But yeah, to summarize, role models, it's the most important thing I think that we can leave for younger generations.
Yeah, yes, definitely. And it's that visibility, isn't it? And just knowing that those people are in, or women are in tech roles and what they do, and understanding what that role is, and knowing, whether or not it's for you or not, being able to see it and be it. So our conversation today focuses on artificial intelligence, and there has been a lot of back and forth over this conversation. Do you think it will lead to mass unemployment, or is that a myth?
This is always a controversial subject, but I think it's nothing that we haven't heard before. Any technological advance has created some sort of a crisis in terms of employment, but I think it also has created an opportunity to reskill and to sort of shape and as we evolve as a society. For example, when machines were introduced to help with agriculture, people working the fields lost their jobs, but new jobs were created to build and maintain those machines. At the same time, with the technology or the bit of AI that we do, conversational AI, we're helping business automate processes. which means that sometimes the people that were working on those processes will be affected. But we have very good examples of clients or of ours that have managed to reskill those people. So people that were working, for example, in a call center, and some of them were not replaced, but some of the work that they were doing is covered now by an automated tool, have been reskilled, and now they are developing the solutions and maintaining the solutions. And you know what, to like the employee, from the employee's point of view, that's also a much more satisfying job than just answering the phone every day and repeating the same answers, which can be done by a machine. And I think customers are also thankful for that, because they can just do everything faster whenever they need it, instead of just having to be limited by the schedule of a call center, for example.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In the sense that every time there is some sort of technology advancement, it does cause a storm. And I think people do worry, not just about their jobs, but how things are going to change. Nobody likes change. It doesn't have to just be technology in the tech sector, but the tech sector moves so fast as well. So I think it's keeping up with all the advancements, causing a storm every time that something happens. How is AI transforming the workplace?
I would love to say that, yeah, it's transforming it completely. But as you say, technology moves so fast that it's like we are not fully aware of all the transformation and how easy technology is making our lives. We use technology every day that may have AI embedded on it without even realizing it. And for us, it's sort of a black box that we use it, it works. We don't, like the regular user won't even try to think about what's behind the curtain. It's just that, is it working, is it not working? So they might not think of AI of helping their lives in there. But to me, AI in businesses, it's all around efficiency. It's about making everything that we do more efficient, to work with less and do more. In our case, like customers are getting a consistent experience. They don't have to go, like, no matter what channel they pick, they will still get the same experience, hopefully, and that will make them happier and more loyal to your brand. Employees can rely on AI to create a central repository, so they're happy because they don't need to be training very often, and they can always have the most up-to-date information. And then businesses can do more with less, so they're also happy to implement these solutions. If they're making their customers happier, their employees happy, it's a no-brainer almost.
Yes, because it is, as you mentioned, about efficiency rather than a threat. I think it's what it tends to be seen as. But when you shine a light on it in that way, it definitely has a lot of positives attached to it. Can you give us some examples of how companies use AI within their hiring process?
Yes, we actually have a client in the US. It's called Grapetree. And it's a 24/7 healthcare staffing agency that offer staffing solutions to healthcare facilities. They work on 12 states in the US and have been operating for over 20 years. And the way that they're using conversational AI is to support candidates through the job application and interview process. So it's not that they're using AI to interview them, but it's just as an extra support in case they have any questions regarding roles, regarding how does it work, when I'm gonna get a yes or no on whether my application has been accepted, and so on. So it's almost like an extra employee that's always there trying to provide support for the applicant. And the goal is to automate and reduce disengagement and increase the customer experience in the recruitment process. So if someone has a question that they might not know how to continue, or when they're filling out an application form, the bot can provide that information to them. And if the bot wasn't there, they probably would just shut it down and say, okay, I'll try to get back to them tomorrow or something like that. So if the solution is there, then they have a source of information available at any time. And that is proven to be really helpful. Another example that I just thought of is Google has a tool to practice for interviews. So, I mean, I'm a fan of Google in some instances, and for some products, some other I'm not so much of a fan, especially when we get about privacy and all that. But you know, having the ability to have a free tool that you can use to practice for interviews, and you ask sample questions to evaluate your answer and identifies room for improvement. I think it's awesome. You can never have enough practice. So that's another way that AI can be used on recruitment.
So in theory then, if companies are using AI for recruitment, it should remove any bias there. You know, if there's anything, I remember hearing a great story about an orchestra that every time that they recruited for somebody, they found that it was very male dominated. So they, when they recruited people for the orchestra, they decided to start doing this behind a curtain and getting people to remove their shoes. So you couldn't hear if it was a lady walking in heels. And once they did that, they found that actually the orchestra suddenly became, you know, 50-50 gender split. And even though those people might not have realized that they were doing it on purpose, there was some kind of unconscious biasness going on there. But if companies are using AI, surely that has been removed, or is it?
I would love to say that there is a way to remove bias 100%, but at the end of the day, a solution, even if it has machine learning, it's programmed by a human. And we, as humans, our brains are designed to organize information we receive through our senses into boxes or tags. And that information, it's based on our own experience. And as everything, it can evolve, it can change as we learn more and we become, you know, more educated, but we will always have an opinion on subjects. So I believe, you know, like the best way to decrease bias is actually to bring diversity in the development of these solutions. So that the teams need to be diverse. They need to have people from different backgrounds, different points of views, because that at the end of the day will become part of the solution and make it, you know, more diverse, which is what we're trying to do. As you were saying, you know, like the orchestra example, by removing the visual, they only have to rely on their ears and just categorize as like, is this, you know, from my experience, is this good? Is this bad? But the most systems, they are very logical. So they will look at very specific patterns, and they don't take into account, you know, like empathy or charm or stuff like that, that really makes a difference when you're trying to hire someone. And at the end of the day, that person is going to be talking and working with other humans. They're not going to be working with an AI. So they need to fit into the team.
Yeah, and whether you can relate with somebody and you know, you're told to show your personality, aren't you, in an interview, and it's not always about the skills that you know, but whether or not the person that's interviewing you thinks, you know, will you fit in with our company culture, which obviously is, you might not be able to show in an interview if it's just done by AI, perhaps at the first initial screening phase, to get you through to talk to a human. You mentioned about companies are not actually using robots to, you know, interview somebody. I take it it's not, you would get to, you know, through to a certain stage of your interview and suddenly you are, your interview is conducted by a robot. I take it that is not what happens.
It could be. I mean, I you know, like as I was saying, technology goes so fast, companies are trying different things. It might be that in some ways companies are using AI to do some sort of like a first filter because they are getting like a huge amount of applicants, and they need to sort of focus on the ones that might be the most fit for the position. So if they're doing that, I think it could be a good tool, but they are also risking losing some good candidates that might not be as comfortable as talking to an AI solution as an interview, if that's the case. Or even, you know, like nowadays you do a CV and some of the CVs get scanned and basically run through an AI to identify, okay, based on the CV, these are the, like the closest fit to what your offer is. So in that case, you sort of have to think like a robot. If that's the case of the company that you're trying to apply for, focus on the keywords and try to mimic the language of the company. That will also help because they're just basically trying to get a match. So if you get your CV to close as much as you can to the offer that they're putting out there, then it makes it easier for the system to identify you as a match. I'm not a fan of that because I think, the human component, it's still very important. And even if I'm, a part of a company that works on AI, but not everything needs to be automated. And that's something that we always say, that as much as we, this is our business and we want to help businesses, not everything needs to be automated. We need to pick our battles and what we want to focus on.
Yes, yes. And those things that are automated, as we mentioned already, interview processes, they are created by humans, as you touched upon earlier. So surely, some of our biases there, they're going to creep in. How can we resolve that? How can we make sure that that doesn't happen?
One thing that we're doing internally, we don't use AI for recruitment, but we have a committee, like a diversity committee inside the company. So we come together, look at the offers, and try to figure out, what's the best language to be using. How do we identify? And these meetings we have very regularly, and then evaluate the performance of our job offers and whether they're attracting more male or female applicants to that. And it's a it's a never-ending work, especially in this industry that's very technical, and some of the technical roles are very challenging for us to try to bring more females, for example. But if you really are passionate about this, you are trying to find a way, as long as you're working on it, I think that's the best that you can do. So that's at least how we approach it inside our company.
Yeah. You were touching on a little bit there about diversity and ensuring that there is a diverse team that's working on it. But could AI help improve diversity and inclusion within the tech sector as a whole, or do you think it's just one element of something that needs to be quite a lot needs to be done within the tech sector to improve diversity and inclusion? So do you think that's just one part?
I don't think AI by itself can do that. But people working with it within technology and the technology industry can use their position to improve diversity and inclusion. So I think it's a top-down company decision, but also a personal one. You have a commitment as a company to work on diversity manifestos and to try to do initiatives as that. But also as a female working in this industry, I can decide to get involved in other initiatives outside my company if I truly believe that. So if it's something that you're aware of, you believe in it, and you think you can make a difference, then that's, I think, much more valuable than what AI can do. AI, it's usually for most businesses, unless they're making money out of it, it's really hard for them to say, okay, no, we're going to be just doing this for the good of it. So I think it comes down to humans much more than machines.
Yes, yeah, I agree. And what trends do you see in the future for AI? Where do you see it going?
I think it, like one of the areas that has the largest potential is not so much not explored, but tap into it, is data insight and data analysis. With the expansion and the inclusion of social media, everyone in the world has a voice and can potentially reach anyone else in the world. So just tapping into that from a business point of view can help you figure out trends, can help you really understand what the problems with your products are, where you need to be offering clients, when, and so on. So that part, it's part of what we do. We just take it from when the system and the person are having a conversation, all that data we provide to our businesses, well, to our clients, and then they can get insights from that. But in a larger scale, I think there is so much that customers and clients are saying out there, and business haven't really taken the job to just listen to people. There are sometimes we're very put or set on our ways, and we just need to start listening to clients and people at the end, people more.
Yes, yeah. And if AI is very much data analytics, analysis, if you're looking to go into a career in AI, is that something, you know, a skill that perhaps if you already do that and you're thinking about moving into a different area, is that something that, you know, our listeners might be considering a career in artificial intelligence? Do the two connect there, or are there any other skills that you think would be valuable for our listeners?
I think, you know, like I see nowadays, because I have two small children, that countries and society as a whole, it's recognizing more the need for them to start early. So they get, you know, like robotic classes, which we didn't at that time. But I will suggest to, you know, like women that are trying to get into technology, to think that even within a technology company, you're going to need accountants, you're going to need, you know, finance people, you're going to need lawyers. So don't limit yourself to only technical roles, because there is still a place for women within technology companies outside the products department. That said, you know, I don't think at the beginning of your journey or your career, you know for sure what you want to do with your life, because that was my experience at least. So just try text, you know, test out. There are so many tools right now that can help you learn how to code, that can help you, you know, like for example, build a chatbot that you can just try and see if you like it. Don't limit yourself. That's my suggestion. I think we don't need to put any more limits for ourselves. The world will do a lot of that for us, so we don't need to do it ourselves.
Yes, yeah. So you don't have to be technical to go into AI, because it sounds incredibly technical. But as you just mentioned there are lots of roles within an AI company where you could find yourself working on projects to do with artificial intelligence, but you're not necessarily the technical person, because it sounds incredibly daunting to say, you know, what your job is and, you know, where you work.
Well, I have to say, you know, like within our industry, there is a role which is conversational designer, and those are the people. Of course, there is a technical component, and that's our product team, you know, putting the platform together in the interface so you can build these solutions. But the conversational designers actually look at, you know, language, and most of them, their background is in linguistics. It's not on technical. It's not. They are not developers. They look at, you know, how we use phrases, how we use verbs, how, you know, a conversation needs to be evolving, and they map out these conversations that, because we use language everywhere, every day, for us, it's just easy to talk. But when you're trying to teach a system how to talk, then you realize how hard it is and how amazing our brains are for just doing it like that. So it's again, they are linguists that maybe at the beginning of their career, they wouldn't expect to end up in a technical role at a conversation AI company. So that's another example that we can use.
Yeah, there must be so many roles that we haven't even thought of, or probably don't even exist yet. But as you just mentioned one there, going into speech and communication and linguistics, I mean, that's something that I hadn't even thought about. I think with AI, you tend to go straight to the thought of robots, and robots.
I saw,
you know, taking over is is also the image that we always get with artificial intelligence. Is that something that you hear quite a lot about, robots rebelling against society?
as much as I love science fiction, I don't think that will happen. But, you know, it's always about how you use the technology. And, you know, for better or for worse, technology can be used for good, but can be also used on bad. And I think, as I was saying before, these solutions, they need to be programmed by a developer. Someone has to sit behind them, thought about how they're going to behave, how they're going to be evolving, and what is their objective. So unless someone out there is trying to create a solution that will take over the world, I wouldn't be worried. And even if that happens, I'm sure, we can get a great group of women to counteract that. And
Yes.
because we women know that that's not the way. Confrontation is not the way. So I'm sure we'll be able to tackle that if that happens.
Yes, yes, and I highly doubt that we're anywhere near there, but it's always a question that we need to ask if we're going to be chatting about artificial intelligence. But we are almost out of time, and the conversation has gone incredibly fast today. So thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat with you today.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for creating this space for women to share their experience. I think it's awesome.
Thank you very much. And for everybody listening, as always, thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you again next time.